Time to take your wealth to the next level. Welcome to Learn Wealthy, your go-to channel for real estate insights, market charts, and golden opportunity. Let's build wealth together.
What's up, Learn Wealthy community? We're back. We're here back for another video. Today we're going to talk about the difference between inflation, disinflation, and deflation. Very, very important. Very, very important. And we're going to try to figure out where we're at, what's been happening the past years. And I try to make this channel as non-political as possible, but we're going to talk about the state of inflation, and apparently politics has a lot to do with the current state of it. You got monetary policies, you got fiscal policies, actions taken by our beloved government, and these actions affect our economy. Please stick to the end because we're going to look at politicians and we're gonna criticize what they're saying and compare it to the actual charts that are produced by the government, the Federal Reserve chart and the BLS chart. We're gonna tell if these politicians are actually telling the truth based on these charts. All right, we're finally gonna settle this. Is inflation going bad, or is inflation really going bad, or is Bidenomics correct that inflation is not so bad and economy is booming and economy is great? You know, just like what they always say in the mainstream media. So why is this important anyway? Why are we talking about inflation? And it's because of the real economy. Economy is basically the lives of people like you and me, business owners and working people, the working class. You know, things are getting expensive for employees. Then their salary can't go too much. They can't usually buy the things that they need in life to survive. And even for business owners, inflation is bad for them. Believe it or not, the cost of goods in order to produce their products will be expensive too. Therefore, their margin of profit will be a lot smaller. So, inflation is basically not good for either side, for business people and for regular people in the real economy. There's only one kind of entity that benefits from inflation: the government. Inflation is basically a hidden tax by the government. Basically, as the value of money is diluted, and basically the dollars that they're gonna pay you your Social Security and Medicare benefits in the future are going to be paid in dollars that are worth less because the value of money keeps getting lower and lower. So business people, regular people that are employed, inflation is bad. Talking like Ms. Kamala Harris here. Government, inflation good. All right. So let's get all this straight. There's a lot of definitions with inflation. It depends on what school of economics are you going to listen to. But we're going to go with a view that basically inflation means things are getting more expensive. Cost of goods are getting more expensive. That's the inflation that we're talking about in here. So, and we want to know that because we care about lives of like people in the real economy. So, let's start with this. Let's start with this graph right here. It's from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. They're the ones who produce the CPI report. CPI is the Consumer Price Index. It's our mainstream or headline value of inflation. All right? Because there's many ways you can calculate inflation, and inflation for every individual is actually different. Like my inflation in my personal life is different from yours. Like if I only this is just an example. I don't ride a bike to work. If I ride a bike to work, all right, then I'm not really affected by the increase of gas prices. So, you know, so everybody's inflation is different. CPI is the ones that the government deems that are like average, that average things that affect the lives of people. So they average all these things. Food at home, energy, electricity, all items, food, energy, apparel, medical care, commodities, shelter, education, food, all that stuff. And occasionally they would change how they calculate this. They would reorganize these basket of goods. They would remove things and put things in. A lot of business people and analysts believe that they do this in order to understate inflation, because if you keep things in there that are going up too much in value, then inflation would be like, if you include that on the average, then inflation would be skyrocketing like crazy. So yeah, it's a matter of fact that BLS occasionally changes how they calculate the CPI or the headline inflation. But that doesn't mean we get to call BLS BS and we get to call CPI CP lie. Again, we're using government data here because they're the best one we got. They're the best. BLS is also in charge of calculating unemployment, the U3 reports, establishment surveys, all that stuff. So I'm using all government data here. Federal Reserves, you can argue it's government, and BLS, because I don't want it to be my opinion. I want it to be, this video is the fact check straight from the government data. All right, it's not my opinion, not my chart. So yeah, so there you go. All items. We didn't have a period of deflation. I was like, what's that going negative? So yeah, let's define inflation, deflation, and disinflation. All right. So inflation is when the prices are going up, right? So basically, when it's in a positive value, the average rate of cost of goods is going up. So this one going up from 2020. Inflation is 1.2, 5.7.9, 9 point, it just kept going up, right? This inflation, it doesn't mean that things are going down in value. It doesn't mean that things are getting cheaper. This inflation means it's this period right here. It means that the rate of inflation is just slowing down, but it's still a positive number. Cost of goods is still going up here. Let's see here. Cost of goods is still going up by 3%, right? But compared to here, which is 9.1%, so the rate of increase of prices just slowed down. That's disinflation. When the value of prices are actually getting cheaper, like right here during a recession, where most deflations happen, then you get the cost of goods are actually getting cheaper. Then there's the value of the dollar is getting stronger against the cost of goods. So this part right here is a deflation. Well, when it's actually in the negative, right? The CPI is saying is stating a deflation right here. So that's the difference between your inflation, disinflation, and deflation. All right. So who cares if prices are going up, right? If prices are going up, but all your wages is also going up. Your income, everybody's income is also going up. Who cares? You'll still be able to buy the same thing if they're going up at the same rate. Like average prices go up at 3%, but your wages also went up at 3%. Who cares? You just increase the same amount of money you're earning anyway. So you're still basically your quality of life is still the same thing. Who cares, right? But what really matters is the comparison. Inflation just by itself, there's not a lot of context, right? But if you compare wages and inflation, now you're talking. Now you know if the quality of life of people in the real economy, business people and employees, if their quality of lives are getting worse or getting better, right? So let's look at employed full-time median weekly nominal earnings. Wages and salary of 16 years and over. So this is wages in nominal. Nominal means, this is also a Fred chart. Fred is the Federal Reserve, our central bank basically. So government chart, not my opinion, not my chart, governments. All right. So it's saying here, like the gray ones are recession, right? So it's saying here, wages going up, wages going up, wages going up, wages going up. It doesn't say a lot. How does it relate to inflation, right? Because we always have raises usually. You have like 1% raise, 2% raise at work, right? But how does it, so if you look at this one, it's going to say real earnings of 16 years and over individuals, right? So when it says here in the previous chart, it says nominal, it means it's not adjusted for inflation. And when it says real earnings, it means it's adjusted for inflation now. So now they're incorporating the CPI plus the nominal earnings. They're putting 2 and 2 together. So as we can see here from 2015, right? Wages adjusted for inflation, right? So if you made like a 3% wage increase, but inflation is only 2%, then in net total you actually had a 1% increase and a 1% improvement of your quality of life, right? So as you can see here from 2015, wages are going up against inflation. And you get 2020, it just dropped. It just dropped. Again, so wages are not keeping up. Wages are not keeping up against inflation. So when you hear everybody say in social media or everybody on YouTube or your conspiracy theorist family member that I can't afford anything anymore with this Bidenomics, they're not lying. Look at this government data, not mine, not my opinion, right? Yep. So wages are not keeping up against inflation from right here, 2020 against all the way to present, right? It just, you can draw basically a straight line going down from this top right here all the way to the end here, right? All right, now that's out of the way. Let's see what all our politicians have been saying, if they're actually telling the truth, because we saw the charts produced that the people watching TV, the people watching CNN or CNBC, the people watching the mainstream media don't read. So it's easy for the mainstream media and politicians to say, Bidenomics is great, bro. So, yeah. Now that you have reality of the government chart, not my opinion, now that you have that reality, let's see what the politicians are saying. All right, let's watch these politicians, see if they're telling the truth. We're going to compare what they're saying to the government charts in place. Start with our good old man here, Mr. Joe Biden.
Do you take any blame for inflation, Mr. President?
Do I take any blame for inflation? No.
Correct. Why not?
Because it was already there when I got here, man. Remember what the economy was like when I got here? Jobs were hemorrhaging. Inflation was rising. We weren't manufacturing a damn thing here. We were in real economic difficulty. That's why I don't. Thank you.
Mr. President, when and how will you remain?
Right, that was cool. So he said inflation was already there when he got here. Yeah, this is the inflation chart, by the way, consumer price index, CPI. As you can see, inflation, he was right. He's telling the truth. Inflation has been here since 1960. 1960, we had like a 1.4% inflation, 2% on 1970, 5% on 1970. That's crazy. So, and we even got a 13% on 1980 during a recession. So he's right. Inflation has been around for as far as the Federal Reserve chart data has, but this is when he got here. All right, to 2020, inflation was 1.2% and shoots up, boom, and we ended up having 8% on to 2022. All right, and like I said, when we have a period of like inflation going down, it doesn't mean like prices of goods got cheaper. It just means the increase of prices slowed down from 8% to 4.1 at 2023, and we don't have any more charts. With all the PhDs in the Federal Reserve, they can't have a real-time update on their on their charts, and with all the staff they have using our tax money. So yeah, and he said it's not his fault because inflation has been around since the beginning of time, and jobs, we were hemorrhaging jobs. So I had a jobs thingy. Unemployment rate on the BLS That's right, 2020. We hemorrhaged jobs. Trump's reign, 2016 to 2020. Unemployment was going down, right? People were getting jobs. And then we started hemorrhaging jobs in 2020. In fairness of Mr. Joe Biden, we had COVID. But then again, his group, his party, and the fans of that party are the ones pushing the lockdowns, and which basically shut down all the jobs. So we were hemorrhaging jobs, and it's not my fault, except I pushed the lockdown, which caused the hemorrhaging of the job. All right, let's go back. Let's go to the next video of the next politician.
We also know that as our economy has come roaring back, we've seen some price increases. Some folks have raised worries that this could be a sign of persistent inflation. But that's not our view. Our experts believe, and the data shows, that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary.
He's saying that inflation is going to be temporary. Well, it's still here. It's slowed down in prices of goods slowed down in increasing, but it's still increasing, right? We didn't have a period of deflation. We only have a period of disinflation, as I explained in the beginning. Disinflation is just a slowing down of the rate of inflation, but it doesn't mean that prices are getting cheap. We didn't have a deflation. All right. So a lot of people a lot of our favorite politicians in our amazing government are saying that the inflation will be transitory, that it's going to be temporary. Like Chairman of Federal Reserve George Powell right here.
If we do see that inflation expectations are moving up, or inflation is on a path to remain well above our goals and risk of setting us off on a period of high inflation, then we'll use our tools to guide inflation back down to 2%. So in the end, it's not going to be. In the end, it will be transitory, and
he's saying it was transitory, but clearly it was not. It was inflation is here to stay. Let's look at our the Queen of England. I mean, the Queen of the United States.
Don't filibuster me on that. Who had claimed
Janet Yellen. Oh no, never mind. She's the leader of the. She's the leader of the Treasury, United States Treasury, not the Queen.
Very, very briefly, don't filibuster me on this one, please. But last time you appeared here with Chair Powell, you had claimed you felt inflation was, at that point, transitory. Do you still believe that today?
So,
very short, please.
I think when I use the word transitory, I was thinking that it's related to the pandemic, and that when the pandemic goes away, that will make a big difference.
Do you still believe it's transitory?
That. I believe that the pandemic, unfortunately, has been and will be longer lasting than I anticipated.
So you still, basically you're saying the pandemic is still happening, therefore that's why we're still seeing inflation.
Well, I think that's one of the contributors to it.
Okay.
So Janet Yellen basically didn't answer if she believes that the inflation is still going to be temporary, because they failed at predicting that they thought it's going to be transitory, but apparently it's not. It's here to stay, and she doesn't even want to admit it. Just wants to blame COVID for it. Oh, I said a C word. All right, we're gonna look at our next video.
I think that there can be no higher priority than what we have been clear is our highest priority, which is bringing down the costs and the prices as much as we possibly can, and we will stay focused on that.
Highest priority, huh? Pretty much like the border, is that your highest priority as well? All right.
How long should Americans expect? How long should we be bracing for this really sort of historic inflation and some unprecedented gas prices?
Sure. In terms of the discussions that the president Johannes and I had, they ranged in subject, including the issue of the Black Sea, and I'll let him explain in more detail as he would like. But we are, again, fully aware and apprised, because we are in constant communication with the president, with his administration here, about the concerns that they have about the entire region and, frankly, the vulnerability. All you have to do is look at the map.
She didn't even answer the question. She was talking about the Black Sea and the question was about inflation.
Bidenomics is working.
Hell yeah.
All of this is part of our blueprint together for what America can be. This is Bidenomics, a plan to invest in America and build a future in which all people can truly thrive. But while inflation is down and wages are up...
Remember, we look at the chart? She said inflation is down and wages are up. And we looked at the chart. I'm going to pull it up right here. Alright, she said inflation is down and wages are up. So this chart is the... We're back here at the real wages. That means it's adjusted for inflation. So that means here in this chart, it's showing that wages is actually going down. I mean, yeah, wages is actually going down against inflation. And that just means she's lying.
Down and wages are up, prices are still too high. And I think that there are those who are unable to see what can be, but there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been.
I do not know how to unburden myself by what she's been saying. All right, guys. This is the last politicians that we're listening to. It's from the presidential debate about what they think about the inflation. We're gonna give both candidates a chance to express themselves.
Thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern: the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
I got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again.
The economy collapsing and the fact that there were no jobs is due to the lockdowns and closing everything down, which was Biden's side was trying to push.
That's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought on the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. The price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. That we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination of
corporate greed.
The corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where...
That's what governments always say, corporate greed. But corporate produces and provides everything to people. Well, they don't, and they say corporates are greedy.
If you had to take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We made sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for
an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they conclude beginning next year. And the situation is we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you, President Trump.
We're the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we...
Trump is a fluffer. This is a technique used in sales. As you know, I'm also a realtor. So we cannot lie to clients, but we're allowed to use fluffing, which means just exaggerating things. This house is amazing, like saying things like that. I guess this guy's a businessman, so he likes to fluff things. Do we have the greatest economy at this time? In his time, I don't know. I don't know the full details, but it's obviously fluffing.
Spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country.
The left was pushing all the mandates, all the masks and lockdowns and everything, while Joe Biden is blaming the loss of jobs. Well, they were pushing everything to be closed.
But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Fine.
All right, is inflation killing our country? Is he saying the truth? Oh, yeah, back to Trump's statement first about do we have the greatest economy during his presidency. So 2016 is where he was at. 2020, this is the inflation rate. So inflation was technically 2016 was 1.2%, and end of 2020 it was 1.23%. So it was about 1.2% throughout Trump's presidency. It's an okay inflation, I would say. But then again, you have to adjust wages and inflation. You have to compare wages and inflation, because if, let's say, if wage increase is 0 and inflation is 1%, then people are still losing 1%, So at least wage increase percentage has to beat inflation. So if you see here, this is the wages adjusted for inflation. So 2016. So wages are going up in general. It's going up. See, it's an upward chart right here. Wages are going up against inflation, especially in 2020. By the end of 2020, wages are really high compared to inflation. Oh well, this is where hold on. This is where they did all the stimmies and PPP loans and all that stuff, and they just threw away money to a lot of people, and which caused a lot of inflation at the end. But yeah, 2020, the reactionary, how governments react to recession, because there was a recession there. It's a small one. See that gray line? But to 2016 to 2020, I would say wages are going up against inflation. Remember real earnings? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this Learn Wealthy episode.
I love you.
If you're finding a lot of value in this video, please like this video and subscribe to Learn Wealthy and get notified.